Hey guys, welcome to Total Body Mobility and Core Activation. I'm Coach Becca, and here's what we need today. A foam roller would be handy, but not necessary. A pillow, this is my Baby Yoda. Of course, you don't have to have Baby Yoda, but I do love my Baby Yoda pillow, as well as a bench or a chair. You can do this workout without these three things, but they will enhance your workout. Of course, as always, I'll do the whole workout with you. Let's get started. We're going to begin with a dorsiflexion hip stretch. So let's assume this kind of kneeling runner's position. And this is just level 1. If you can progress and drop into level 2, great. You're kind of leaning on, here I'll point to it just a minute right there. You're kind of leaning on your Achilles, pressing your heel into the floor and giving that ankle joint some nice kind of isometric stretching in what's called ankle dorsiflexion. You also feel your hips get a little bonus stretch too in both variations. So, do what feels right for you. This workout, there's a lot of space to adapt and modify based on where your mobility is today. And I think you need to focus on that, just where you're at today in this moment with where your body feels. So don't compare yourself to me or where you were a little while ago. Focus on just doing what feels good. And right now we're focusing on that heel, the Achilles, the ankle, and just working into some movement, creating some space in the ankle, specifically in dorsiflexion. Great job. Play around with the positioning. Again, we're having that pillow nearby just in case you need to put it underneath your hips or knees at any point to enhance your stretch. One of my favorites up next, the big toe lift. Big toe mobility and strengthening is highly underrated. So let's work on that big toe strength. We're getting into this split position here and get up onto the balls of our feet. From there, we're just going to press and straighten out our big toe. Kind of like you're pretending to be a ballerina. You're just only working the big toe joint. So bring your big toe into flexion and then extend it. So just push. And you might feel your Achilles get a little bit cranky or when it gets activated, it might cramp up a little bit. Just pause and know that you're strengthening all those muscles in your feet and working on those big toe specific movements like running and walking. All of that really relies on having good, strong toes and creating a good relationship with our mind and our body. So as we switch sides here, know that this is a super funky exercise, but it can really play a part in your proprioception or your awareness of your body and can really help prevent injuries. I have bunions in both feet, so it's really important and imperative for me to do these to keep my arch strong and really to keep myself pain-free and compensation-free. So I'm working on that big toe strength, just lifting through the big toe there. Press that big toe down, build that arch strength, build that big toe strength, big toe mobility. I'm using the foam roller to press down on, but you could use the edge of your couch or the top of a chair, just something to kind of, allow you to push down on that a little bit if you need to. All right, so if you have socks on, take your socks off for the next one. We're going to go through kind of another weird one. Might as well get 2 weird ones out of the way while we're being weird, right? And what we're going to do is target at first, I'll be honest with you, this is a hard exercise for me to do. That second toe, we want to isolate that and try to lift our second toe without lifting our other toes. A movement specialist I have a great respect for is really good at these, and I'm just not there yet. So what's helpful for me to do is to try to do a couple of those, that second toe in, try to lift that toe up while keeping all the other toes pressed down. But to lift all of those toes and just flex all my toes up and down a few times, just to wiggle some movement in there. It actually just feels really good as somebody that does endurance running and, or hiking, walking, whatever it is you do. It's a good exercise just to flex all your flex all your toes. And then, if you can come back down and try to just get your middle toe or, your second toe or maybe the middle toes there, that's a win. So that's one that I'm going to keep working on, and I invite you to work on that with me. So that's toe flexes. Specifically, we want to work on getting more control over that second toe, just building a better relationship with our feet and an understanding of the muscles that work in and around our feet. All right, let's go into some knee cars next. So just going to sit on the ground in a comfortable position. Again, if you need to place a block or a pillow under your butt here, you can, or even behind you. What we'll do is turn the foot out when it's flexed, point our toe and extend it, and basically draw a teardrop kind of position. So my hands are just gently behind my knee. I'm going to flex my foot, rotate it out, come all the way up, try to straighten that leg out. Then I'll point my toe and kind of draw the rest of that teardrop shape. Here's what it looks like from the side, if it helps you. Okay, and we're just kind of, again, building the integrity of our knee and working through the movements that the knee can do to build a better proprioception, which, again, I keep using that word. It just means better body awareness, really, and better control of our joints so that we can perform optimally without any or as minimal injuries as possible. So again, you're strengthening a lot of those muscles and tendons in around the foot and even a little bit in the ankle as a bonus. But we're also building that awareness and that connection from our brain to our body and just finding where there's space or lack of space and movement or lack of movement within our joints, because that does affect the way that we move and experience movement patterns in sports. So great job there. Here's a view from the side, if that helps you out at all. I mean, 6 to 8 of these is fine if you're, going through a day that's busy and you felt like this felt really good and you don't have time to do a full set. Even just, 6 to 8 repetitions each day would be really helpful for your body. So treat it with love. All right, down dog position here. So hips high, and your hips and feet might look like they're in a different position from mine. And I'll show you a modified version in just a moment. But if you can get in this position, just kind of continue going through this with me for the next 45 seconds or so. If you need to put your hands on a chair or your couch or a bench, let me show you what the modified or level 1 version is. So this way you're still getting that lat stretch, but you can also focus on getting a calf stretch and low back stretch as well without maybe all the intensity of the full down dog. So let's just finish that out. Again, really focusing on the calves, on the hamstrings, even the lats and the low back. So it's just kind of a nice double dipper, if you will. So listen to your body. Do the position that works best for you. It's not going to look exactly like mine, and it never will. Okay, there's people out here that do this way better and more effective than me, and I learned from them myself. So just really inviting you to be humble and listening to your body today and plugged in with where you're at on this day, because trust me, I have different mobility needs each day based on how tired my body is or what have you. So, all right, let's move on to the next one. This is one of my favorite ones recently. So you're just going to place your foot on a block, or you can do this from the floor if you're just starting out. You could put your foot on your pillow. What we're going to do is 10 to 15. We're in that kind of half kneeling runner's lunge position again, and you're just bringing your heel towards your butt. And this is a great hamstring and glute exercise. I also enjoy the nice stretch on my hip here, but I like this movement as a runner because I feel like there's a lot of points in my run where my hamstrings are underutilized. And that's just really important in building a good runner's wheelhouse. So here's what some of you, now mine is not that great. So there's some of you out there that might be able to do this way better than me, but off of a higher block, just to work my body a little harder. Now my core is a little bit more involved, so you can see me bracing on some higher points just to kind of help me stay stable. So there isn't a more advanced version for some of you that might be trying this level and say it's not, it's really easy, I'm not really feeling it. So as we switch sides here, if you feel able to, you can go from a higher surface if that's more appropriate for you. Maybe you're taller too. Like there's so many factors when we talk about flexibility and stability and mobility. And that's a triangle: flexibility, mobility, stability, that really is at an individual place. Some people are really flexible but don't have great stability, and you can go into all different combinations of that. But my hope and my goal for this session, as I show the higher level of this exercise in particular, is that we can work on kind of that entire triad, both flexibility, mobility, stability, and even some general strength training. As an endurance athlete and just as a human being, I find this to be just essential and should be at the center of what I do. And this, I feel like, has really enhanced my relationship with my own body, but also with my performance as well. So I'm excited to take you on this journey. All right, up next, we're going to do an iso trunk squat. These are all demonstrations, so don't feel like you have to start right away on this one. So that's what it looks like from the side, so you can see my posture there. Level 1, I want you to put your back foot up on a chair, okay, if you need to. And I'll demonstrate that here. because what we're really working on is that ankle, knee, and hip relationship and the stability that goes with that. So it's obviously a strength exercise because it's hard to do your squat. And we'll start the time now. And we're doing 30 seconds per side. So go ahead and choose your version. Work on your posture. Work on your breathing. Inhale nose, exhale mouth. Okay, 30 total seconds. And really what we're working on is that ankle, knee, and hip stability. Obviously, you're going to get a little quad and glute strength here being a single leg squat, but try to tune into how your knee is in relationship to your hip and ankle, okay? And that's what I try to do when I do this exercise. Let's switch sides, level 1 or 2, and just take note, is your knee moving inwards a lot? Is your knee shifting outwards? Are you struggling for balance? Does your posture look like this, where you're, got a good strong line from your shoulders to your hips, or are you rounded, is your butt tucked under or pushed out excessively? So just kind of analyze yourself here in a healthy way and say, where am I struggling or where am I succeeding? And, take note of that for each time you do this workout. Up next, we have some iso hip presses. So first of all, let's just get into this figure 4 position. For some of us, that might be challenging. Okay, what I'm going to do next is apply pressure to my knee gently while I'm lifting into my hand. So I'm applying pressure into my knee and vice versa, pressure back into my hand. So it's a 10-second contraction. Let's relax for a brief moment. Take a deep breath. And we're going to go again. Ready and push. Now, if you're somebody that's really struggling to even get into this position, I invite you to put a pillow under your hip or knee or just work on holding this position. Let's rest and switch sides. Again, work on just getting into this figure 4 spot if needed, and then you can work on the isometrics. Push your hand into your knee and your knee into your hand, and you should feel that deep in your hips. Okay, so we're working on just creating space and mobility in our hips with an isometric, with a deep breath in between. Let's rest and go again here. Again, it's a 10-second hold. Let's push. You're lightly pushing into your knee and lightly pushing back with your knee. Strengthening that internal rotation of the hip. Very good. We're going to do that kind of same thing on the floor now. If you need to place a pillow under your butt, like so. Sorry, baby Yoda. You can, again, use these pillows to your advantage. Like if you can, if this helps you get into a stretch here, or if that's, again, if you're struggling to get into this space, work with what you have. Use your pillows, use your, support, you stretch your feet out a little bit more. And what we're doing here now is I'm pressing my back knee, which is my right knee now, into the floor for 10 seconds. It's just another form of working that rotation of the hip. Okay, I'm going to take a deep breath and do that again. Pushing that back knee down. 10-second pushes. And you should just feel that through your hips. And that's just a big win for a lot of us. It's a big win for me. I like to feel that way. Now, if you can, let's try lifting that knee off the floor. So now it's the opposite movement, just some light hip external rotation. I don't want you forcing any movements you can't do yet. So if you need to, you can either press pause to figure out how to make this movement work for you, or you can fast forward to the next exercise. And don't feel bad about that. It's just where you're at today. We're going to rotate to the other side if you can. Okay, again, using the pillow as needed, wherever you're lacking mobility. And let's just push now my left knee, whichever knee you're on, push that into the floor. 10-second holds. Okay, a little relax here. Take a deep breath. And let's push that back knee into the ground again. 10-second hold, and let's push that knee down. This should not be uncomfortable. You should just simply feel your hip joints, both with this exercise and the one we did previously. All right, let's go into a couple knee lifts off the ground. So again, just working on rotating through your hip and building strength there. Creating awareness. Maybe it's a good eye-opening session for some of us to just realize, wow, there's a lot I didn't realize I could do. All right, again, if you need to sit on something, you can sit on a pillow here to make this a little bit more doable. Okay, or place a pillow somewhere where you feel like it's going to help benefit you. Maybe behind your back or what have you. With your hands behind you and your feet in the ground, knees at about 90 degrees, we're just going to rotate side to side. Again, don't force any movements that you don't feel like you're ready to do. Okay, if that felt like super easy and awesome, I invite you to try it with your hands raised above your head. A little more challenging. There's always a way to regress, and there's always a way to progress, okay? Since I'm not there with you, I'm just trying to talk you through some options that you might have. All right, up next, we're gonna do a hip hinge with the foam roller if you have one. If you don't have one, you can really do the same thing just without the foam roller where it's at. This is the movement I'll be doing, okay? This is the more advanced option today. But for some of us that aren't able to do that, you can place your hand on a chair as you go down instead of placing that hand overhead. Okay, and you can also just forego the foam roller between your foot and hand and use it as an assistant. So just really what we want to work on is the movement of the hip hinge, which is, notice the great line from my shoulder to my heel. I'm making a letter T, not the letter W, okay, where there's bending in our lower back and a lot of stress on our lower back and kind of just stress in general, which we don't want. This exercise works on ankle, knee, and hip stability, hip mobility, even core coordination and engagement, okay? And I'm just bringing that arm overhead as a way to make it a little more challenging. I'm a swimmer, right? So I like to work on extending and reaching forward. So that's just one way I'm making this sport specific for myself. But again, you can do any of those three versions I showed before, okay? Where you either, keep that foot flexed and reach for a bench or chair, or you use the foam roller as a help for your stability, or you're using it to enhance your core engagement like I'm doing here. So find what works for you guys and find joy in that, okay? What we want to focus on is that line from our heel to our hips to our shoulders. And really we're doing that to prevent any, excessive pulling from our lower back to get this movement done. And we're also working on, connecting the lower body to the upper body instead of the upper body hinging and then the lower body following. We want to improve our ability of our lower body and upper body to work as a complete union. And that's connected by our core, okay? And that's why everyone talks about core strength being so important. So it's kind of that connector, it's kind of our center, and we want to be strong from the inside out, from the bottom to the top. And as you can see, we're kind of doing that in our workout here. We're working from the bottom up. All right, so here's level 1 dead bug. You're just going to brace the foam roller if you're using one, and lower your arm over your head while that same leg extends out. So this is level 1. Press pause and do that one if you need to. Level 2, you're going to brace, really like what you did with the foam roller hinge before this. You're going to brace the foam roller between your foot and hand, okay, and extend the opposite arm to overhead. So there's 2 versions of the dead bug you can do. You can do this with or without the foam roller, and it's really kind of like the opposite movement that we just did before this. So this one's really good for core coordination, core stability. It's a nice hip extension exercise. It's really just one of my favorite exercises for people to do. I love a dead bug and I love a glute bridge. They're just 2 fantastic exercises for your core, glutes, etc. I just love those 2. When in doubt, do dead bugs and glute bridges. You heard it from me first. No. All right, here's the modified version or level 1. Still a great exercise. Sometimes it's nice to do this one just for variety, and I really like to feel that pressure between my knee and the foam roller and my hand. Level 2, again, you're going to brace the foam roller with your foot and hand on one side while you're working up and down on the other. So it's just that idea of holding, yourself in one position while working on the other side, and just a fantastic coordination exercise. I could go on and on about it, but the fact that you're doing it is what makes me happy. So very good work. All right, up next, we're going to do a Piriformis Bridge or a figure 4 bridge. So if you're able to, I want you to cross one leg over the other. If you're unable to do the crossover, you can just keep both feet on the ground and do a regular glute bridge. I apologize for not demonstrating that first. I was just so excited to show you this one. You might feel, if you're able to get to this position, how it opens your hips and gives you kind of an active stretch while you're doing this glute and core strength training exercise. Try to keep your bottom foot fully fixed on the ground as we strengthen your glutes, do a great single leg exercise, and strengthen our core. Okay, let's switch sides here. Again, press the hips up as you're in that lovely figure 4 position, strengthening the glutes, opening up the hips, opening up the core, and really even getting a small amount of balance training in just because we're on one leg. So that's just a nice way to recruit some muscles Always important to work in single leg and single arm exercises into our training regularly. And we're going to go from here right into a butterfly bridge. So place your feet together and knees out, and then exhale and lift your hips. Another great hip opener. It's an exercise that feels like it should be a stretch, but it really is a great exercise, a really great way to strengthen your glutes while opening up your hips and activating your core, which is exactly why I include it in so many exercises and in so many workouts, and in this workout in particular. So a great mobility and core exercise, a great strength exercise. Fantastic. 2 thumbs way up. All right, and up next, we're just going to flip it over, okay? Like to look at my cute little baby Yoda here. It's all about your surroundings, right? And we're going to do a little hip car. I've done hip car standing. You can do them on all fours too, okay? So what we're going to do is just drive your knee, keep your knee at 90 degrees, drive your knee back, rotate around, and just kind of swoop that knee down. Push back, rotate around, draw it in. And what a controlled articular rotation is, a car, okay, that's what that stands for. It's, again, a way to explore all the joints, all the movements possible through this joint. So your hip is a ball and socket joint like your shoulder. There are so many movements it can do, and we want to encourage that and strengthen that, okay? So your hips can cause movements where your foot goes back, it turns in, it comes around. There's just a lot of good things and that can happen through your hips and shoulders. But if your body's immobile or not very flexible, or that just hasn't been used like this in a long time, we've got to rebuild that highway system from our brain to our body and fire up those neurons and, get those joints and ligaments loosened up and create some space there. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to improve our proprioception, our range of motion, and just enhance those movements through our hip joints. Well, in any joint, not just our hips, and from here, since we're in a great spot for it, let's work our way from the hips up into the spine now. So some cat-cow breathing is my favorite for the hip, or for the spine, because it's a great form drill as well. So a lot of people tend to have poor mechanics in their squat. I know the squat gets a bad rap, but in a lot of other movements too, like squat jumps or power movements, this is a great foundational exercise that can help you be aware of the direction of your hips and help you place a better form emphasis in your key movements like the squats and deadlifts, even pull-ups, right? So again, just work on tilting that spine back and forth with your neck, and great exercise that we can use that translates to other places. Bent over rows is one. Okay, let me talk you through this next one. The lean back. A lean back. All you're going to do with your feet flat, on your knees, arms crossed, squeeze your core, lean back as far as you can. I know it sounds like it shouldn't be an exercise, but I started doing this with some of my senior clients. I called them lazy boys when I first started doing them, and I've just realized it's a really great hip extension and core glute exercise that's pretty safe. You really can't let yourself get into too bad of an anatomical position because you'll just stop. So this is a version here where your feet are flexed, and you might give that a try if you can. Don't worry if you can't lean back very far. All I want you to really think about is bracing your core and squeezing your glutes. And if that means leaning back a half inch, so be it. Really well done. It's a simple exercise, a simple concept, and it yields simple results, okay? Squeezing the glutes, lengthening the hips. All right, level 1, T-spine rotations. Level 2, T-spine rotations. Let's do whichever one you can. So you're just bringing the opposite hand or elbow to the opposite knee and then rotating up towards the ceiling as much as you can. In level 2, you can also get your hips involved, which is always nice to incorporate more movements. So this in particular, T-spine stands for thoracic spine. It's the spinal column that's in the middle of your back, and its primary job is actually movement and mobility, whereas lumbar spine and cervical spine's primary jobs are more for support. However, there is still movement through those, so important to work on spinal mobility of all sorts, like cat and cow, for example. But this one's really nice. Again, like I've mentioned before, I'm a swimmer, but any type of throwing sports or anyone that has to reach for anything, like a mom reaching back to swat her kids in the back seat if they're misbehaving, needs to have great spine mobility and great reach. So really this can translate into being functional for anybody. It's a great activity of daily life exercise. A lot of of us find ourselves rotating and reaching for things, and this is a great way to stay strong for that. Nice work. Of course, I put swimmers in here because it's a great mobility exercise, but if you're not a swimmer, you can still benefit from this. So let's just bring those hands behind you on the lower back. Okay, what you're going to do is squeeze your butt and your core. Okay, and you'll do this one with me. We're only doing 3 of these. Squeeze your shoulder blades and lift your elbows off the floor. Extend your arms by using your triceps and slowly rotate your hands overhead. Once you've reached as far as you can, slowly begin rotating your hands back. Once they're back as far as you can go, bend your elbows and then relax completely. That should have been a little bit tiring for you. If it wasn't, squeeze your glutes and core more, and your shoulder blades. All right, pinch those shoulder blades, lift the hands, straighten the arms using the triceps. Slowly begin rotating those hands overhead. All the while, I'm keeping my neck neutral here, okay? Rotate back, working, again, shoulder mobility, really working a lot of things, so core, glutes, even your triceps get involved here. Take a deep breath. Let's do one more. Okay, squeeze your butt and core, squeeze your shoulder blades, lift your elbows, straighten your hands or your arms using your triceps, rotate through the shoulders by reaching overhead. Slowly reach back, bending at the arms as soon as you've rotated your palms upwards, and then relax. Really similar to like a Superman exercise. A lot of people have been prescribed if they've got lower back pain, but I really feel like we don't get enough shoulder mobility in our day-to-day. So let's move into another chest opener or shoulder mobility drill. I'll show you 2 ways you can do this. First one, we're just going to press our palms into the ground for 10 seconds. Press those palms down. My hands are directly in line with my shoulders, and I'm just squeezing my core and pressing my hands down. All right, now I'm going to squeeze my shoulder blades, so the opposite basically, and pull my hands up towards the ceiling as high as I can. Pull those hands up. And now I'm going to rotate my thumbs both directions. So I'm basically trying to do a 360 with my thumbs. Okay, so kind of like a capsule or shoulder car mobility here on the floor. Another great one that I've learned recently from some mobility gurus that I love. So very good. Now there's a way to make this harder, and that's to use blocks, or of course Chewbacca comes into the picture. You can tell I'm a Star Wars fan, especially The Mandalorian. Definitely watched it all recently. Hope you have too. You can place your hands on pillows. Let's press for 10 seconds. Now this is extremely, I guess I shouldn't say extremely, but it's a lot harder than the last one. So don't do this one unless you're really ready to. What we're really doing is just stretching those chest muscles and building resilience in those tissues. We're lifting our hands now for 10 seconds. Lift, squeeze those shoulder blades. Much harder to go from the pillows. Now this part's the very, very hardest. We're gonna rotate those thumbs both directions. And you can see just having those blocks is really pushing that mobility. This is much more challenging for me to do. Good. Rest. Whew. So both those levels are good to do. And I invite you to try either one based on how you're feeling today. Very tough. Very good for the body. Love it. And now I've got both friends over here to help me through the end of this workout. Of course, we've got one more card coming at you, and that's a shoulder card. So I like to make a fist here. What I'm going to do is raise my fist up as high as it can go. When it's up as high as it can go, I'm going to rotate it back. Lower down, raise it back up. Again, I'm just kind of rotating my fist at the high points, reaching back up and around. You can do this on a wall if you'd like. Here's what it looks like from the front. A lot of people struggle when they go into that rotation at the top. You might see that you're weaker there, or that you might struggle as soon as you go to rotate your hand back. So just don't force anything, but know it's an area we need to strengthen and work movement through. Let's try the other side. Again, you can do this up against a wall if you'd like. It's a little harder if you ask me, but you are trying to keep that hand close to your body and work on just that mobility and that control. So we're not doing this quickly. We're doing this very intentionally, just like we did with the knee and the hip cars. Just work on, translating how could this movement help me in everyday life, and also if you're in any sport, recreationally or competitively, how could this help my sport? So A, how does it help you as a human being? B, how does it help you as an athlete, whether that's a recreational walker or a competitive backstroker? There's a lot of different ways that people ages 5 to 95 can use this. And yes, I have my seniors that are in their 80s and 90s work on similar movements to this. All right. Next, we're going to do elevated child's pose. So just put your hands up either on your chair, your pillow, and just feel how this kind of highlights your lats a little bit more. You don't have to do it up on a pillow. If you don't want to, you can do it with your hands on the floor. But I like variety, so give it a try if you're open to it. You can bring that target to your right and push your hip to the left, vice versa. And just kind of, it gives your lower back a little bit more love, and it kind of highlights one lat muscle a little bit more. Again, to the other side now. And really my intention was to open up your body, increase your awareness, and just enhance your relationship with your body today. So maybe not everything felt amazing for you, but that's okay. Maybe there's areas of weakness that we want to work on. All right, go ahead and squeeze your pillow if you're using one between your knees. You don't have to put anything between your knees. You can do, this is called open book stretch actually. You can do this without anything there if you'd like. But sometimes it's just a nice way. You can actually sleep this way, and sometimes they say it's better for your back. I'm not going to say that I'm at liberty to give anyone that advice, but you might try it if you need to. I do, however, like to have something, you can do this even with something heavier if you're doing this for a workout, but this is a nice lower back stretch that I like to do with a pillow, especially a big pillow like this squishy Baby Yoda. And so just doing a couple of those, and then let's get those open books on the other side. So just some fun variety if you've never done it with something like a pillow between your legs. You might try that. I've had my athletes do it when I've done Zoom sessions at home. They've really enjoyed adding the pillow in. I do these exercises with and without a pillow, so you can do this with or without yourself. Just fun to try new things. And if you guys have any questions about some of these exercises in here, please drop them into the comments or shoot me an email. Great job. This is the way. Thanks for joining me today. I invite you to come back and do this session as much as you're able to. Reminder to subscribe so you can stay up to date on all my free workouts and free resources. And special shout out to these 2 platforms that have provided me with a lot of good content and have really helped my performance recently, so give them a follow. Thanks, and see you guys soon.